Yes, that sounds about
Yeah,
right.
I think we're on week 5 of Sports Talk Live. I am Coach Brian, and with me we have, oh, he's over here. I'll figure these cameras out eventually. We have,
Coach Jacob.
I had to do it again, make sure you got it. My hand signals, right? But we have a really cool time to play. I'm great at talking, guys. Like, I'm a professional at this,
You okay
man.
over there, Coach?
I don't know what's happening, man. I've like forgotten how to talk today. I'm in
Drink
the
your
middle of
water real quick while I bring the audience in. It's great to have everybody back again. Last week we had our previous guest, Coach Derrick, former Coach Derrick, joining us today. But today it's just going to be Coach Brian and I, and we got a few important stuff to cover during this week. It was a pretty big week in sports.
that it was. Thank you for picking up my slack because I apparently have forgotten how to talk in the opening minutes of this stream. So let's see if I can contain and get back. But yeah, man, it's been a really crazy week in sports. Yesterday was actually the first time ever in sports. Like there was 7 different sports playing. I think golf, tennis, basketball, baseball, hockey. I forgot a sport. there was 7 of them. Actually, that was only 6. I forgot 2.
Did you say football?
I might not have said football. I got my Raiders hoodie on. Football, I was so excited, man. It was my birthday yesterday, so I got to spend my birthday watching.
Big day for your birthday. Well, happy belated.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate
Hope
it.
you had a good time watching the Chiefs win.
I mean, there's better ways I could have spent it than watching a division rival win, but it was a good game.
Do you own Patrick Mahomes in a fantasy team?
I do not. I have Lamar Jackson on one. I wanted to get Patrick Mahomes, but he was going earlier than I was willing to do. I don't know.
I was just hoping you had him. That way you have to root for the Chiefs in some.
I have Travis Kelce on one team. So I do have that Travis Kelce. So I had him last week too. It was always rough because I knew he was going to get like 200 yards and 8 touchdowns against the Raiders. But it was good for my fantasy team.
Definitely.
Take what you get. So while we're talking about the Texans-Chiefs, let's just dive right into that game. So going into that Texans-Chiefs game, first NFL game of the season, where was your head at? What were you thinking about that game going into it?
I'm just going to say, who would have thought David Johnson is going to be the first person to score a touchdown in the 2020 season? Who would have thought?
Let's talk about resiliency skills real quick, though. David Johnson, everybody has written off. When he got traded for DeAndre Hopkins, everyone was like, oh, that trade's awful. David Johnson's like, he's nothing like he used to be. He can't do it anymore.
I said that.
What were you going to say?
I said that.
Yeah, I know. Like a lot of people were. And I mean, I wouldn't have told you you're wrong if you did say it. But if you watched David Johnson last night, he didn't look like the same David Johnson, but he looked pretty close. He was definitely, like, you could tell he deserves to be a starting running back in the NFL watching him last night. He was making tacklers miss. He had speed that I feel like I haven't seen from him in a while. It was a lot of fun to watch him play. He looked like his younger self.
Let's make a prediction right here. How do you think, is he going to become the David Johnson of old? Not necessarily, putting up the same amount of numbers, but is he still going to be able to have the same type of impact for that team as he did in Arizona when he was the David Johnson that we all knew before he got himself hurt? And do you think he's going to come back?
For fantasy purposes, he's not going to be the same player, right? Like I'm
talking just in general.
Yeah, I think he can be a crucial piece for that Texans offense, and I think we saw it last night because you could definitely tell. Like, even though I forget which announcer said it, but at one point one of the announcers were like, "Oh, this team's not even going to miss DeAndre Hopkins," and it's kind of like, DeAndre Hopkins is probably the best receiver in the league. Like, you can't just say you're not going to miss him. But I think David Johnson will ease that missing DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, we can tell last night, Watson didn't have that receiver to lean on because the first half, his number one receiver ended up being Fuller. In the first half, Fuller had a couple drops. There was a couple balls he should have caught that he dropped. So you could tell Watson's missing having that go-to target. And hopefully David Johnson can really be there for Watson and help him out.
Well, David Johnson was there for a few of the check downs, and he really seemed, even though they did get kind of beat up in the backfield a little bit, but he did seem like a good safety valve for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah,
He did a couple little rollouts to the side, and he had David Johnson right there. He just gave him a quick toss, and David Johnson was able to turn nothing into something. And that's the type of stuff that I think that the Texans were looking for when they shopped him. DeAndre Hopkins is just a great player, and he's definitely going to be missed in Texas.
Yeah, no, for sure. But, I would argue DeAndre Hopkins is the number one receiver talent-wise in the NFL.
Yeah, that's definitely arguable. Depending on where you live, you might say something else. Some people might say Julio. Some people might say Michael Thomas, but who knows? But again, he's that safety valve, and I think because he's a receiving back as well, they're expecting him to pick up some of that slack. We'll see if it happens. We'll see. I think that's what they're going for.
David Johnson, Arizona, used to run some routes out of the slot, so that might be something we see going forward. So, I had him. I don't have him in any fantasy football leagues, but I mean, if I did, I would be really excited with what I saw out of him last night.
Yeah, he has definitely shown resilience. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. And while we're talking about running backs, let's talk about the running back on the other side of the ball, the Chiefs. They have a rookie, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and they gave him the ball last night. They committed to the run and gave him the ball a lot, and it worked.
Yeah.
I mean, as a Raiders fan, I don't like that at all because we already have Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, all those playmakers to worry about. Now you're adding an elite running back. Like, oh, that's a nightmare. Like, how do you cover that as a defense?
How do you stop the Chiefs' offense? That's what everyone's been trying to figure out. And now they added another piece.
Yeah.
No, and it's crazy. They got him towards the end of the draft,
they got him in the first round.
Well, yeah, but it was I meant the end of the first is what I meant.
Yeah, but he was the first running back off the board. So after they said last night that the Chiefs management called Patrick Mahomes and said, which running back do you want? And he said, give me the kid from LSU. And that's Clyde.
Yeah. I saw that.
So, I mean, when you pay a quarterback $500 million, $500 million, I guess it makes sense to give him some insight on who he wants in the backfield with him.
It does make sense. He's the guy right now. He's the face of the league. Arguably, he's the guy.
Him and Lamar Jackson. It's hard to say otherwise.
Yep, definitely.
So, I mean, the crazy part is if you watch that Chiefs game, there's one guy who I mentioned his name. You almost didn't even see him. And that's Tyreek Hill.
He had a quiet night.
He had a very, very quiet night while we see Sammy Watkins and Demarcus Robinson get a lot of playing time and a lot of targets. So that's something definitely to monitor. I mean, Tyreek Hill, he's been around for a while. We've seen him do it. We know this is probably not the norm. But, I mean, if you're a fantasy owner, you're probably thinking in your back of your mind, what's going on? So
yeah. Yesterday was I don't want to say it was a rough outing for him, but it definitely wasn't his game. And if you own Tyreek Hill on fantasy, which I do in one league, I think he got about 10 points.
Yeah.
Obviously, out of Tyreek Hill, we expect more.
Oh yeah.
But it's just one game. Don't panic.
Exactly.
I guarantee it. He's still got Mahomes at the helm. That Kansas City offense is not slowing down. He's gonna break out, and it's gonna be. I wouldn't be surprised if it starts next week. He's gonna have those huge games, but everybody has their game where they don't do so well. It's only week one. Be patient with the guy. He's gonna do something. It was quite a debut for the rookie, as we mentioned. So that was really huge. I own him in one league, and I was a little bit. I don't want to say skeptical, but I was unsure about if I should risk going for a rookie or somebody who's been proven. And I ended up sticking with that rookie just because I avoided him in the other leagues, and I wanted to take that risk when he was there, So I did it. And
it paid off.
I made a great move so far. Somebody tried to make me a trade, and obviously the value wasn't there, and they're telling me he's unproven, so it's okay to make that trade. The trade was for Deshaun Watson for Helaire Straight. So
actually,
after
let's talk about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, but after yesterday's game, I'm glad I didn't accept that one.
For sure, for sure. Because Deshaun Watson did not look like the Deshaun Watson of old.
No, he
I mean,
didn't.
we saw his scramble plays. We saw him like break free, kind of get loose, but it's almost as if he didn't trust to throw the ball up to someone who DeAndre Hopkins, we know, is usually the one. And Will Fuller, they have Will Fuller. Brandon Cooks was hurt. So Brandon Cooks wasn't the normal Brandon Cooks. I think once he gets better, he'll kind of become someone for Watson to depend on. But right now it's Will Fuller. And Fuller has been known as a guy, if you play fantasy football, you know for sure, but Fuller's been a guy who's either booming or bust to the definition of boom or bust. Like he either is going to get 3 touchdowns in the game or he might have 2 catches. And the crazy part is he had 10 targets for 8 catches last night, 120 yards, I want to say, something around there. And I don't think it was one of his boom games.
It was not.
So that excites me as a Will Fuller fantasy owner. I am in one league. I'm excited for the future of Will Fuller because I think he has a lot of potential.
Yeah, I see that. I think it was, I got to a point where I don't want to fully say that because the Texans were playing catch up. They had to throw at that point, So when they're playing catch up, you're probably going to get a decent amount of points out of Fuller. You know what I mean? But when they're leading the ball or when they're leading the game, that ball's going straight to David Johnson, dude.
I agree, but
that's what's going to happen. And Will Fuller, again, he's always been like a boomer bust. And I think this is his year to, like you said, to show out and basically prove that, he can be the guy. He needs to be the alpha male among that receiving group.
One of 2 things he needs to prove. The other one is that he can stay healthy. We've yet to see Will Fuller finish a season.
I was right about to say that. So, and he's also always getting hurt.
Yeah.
So if he can stay healthy during the season, prove that he's the guy in Houston, and be that receiver that they need, then I think that they'll be all right. I think they'll be all right. But definitely missing DeAndre, you can see it in that offense right away.
So I have a question for you. Who do you think had more passing yards yesterday? Pat Mahomes or Deshaun Watson?
It was probably I honestly want to say it was probably Watson because they were throwing a lot.
It was Watson, and like you mentioned,
they're playing catch up.
A lot of that throwing was because they were behind. The crazy part is Mahomes completed 24 passes. Watson only completed 20. So Watson had more yards on less completed passes.
Well, that was going to be my other take on Fuller is he had a couple passes that were just like big gains and big yardage.
Yeah.
So I don't expect every week from him either, though. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that, he's going to be blowing up and doing all these crazy things when they're ahead in the game. I don't think so. He's just going to be he's going to do what he has to do, but I don't know. I have a hard time seeing him being the guy on that offense.
No, I completely agree. I think David Johnson, other than Watson, obviously, is the guy on the offense. And, you have to think most weeks they're not playing a Chiefs-like team. The Chiefs' defense, everyone talks about the Chiefs' offense, but the Chiefs' defense is really good.
Oh, they're stingy.
There's a reason the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year, and there's a reason why they're probably favored to repeat, honestly, because that team, it's a team effort. It's not like it's only the offense carrying it. So the Texans had a rough go of it, but what's crazy for the Texans is it doesn't get any better. They play the Baltimore Ravens next week. They go from playing one MVP to another MVP quarterback. And then they play the Steelers after that, and the Steelers are arguably have the best defense in the league. So
it's gonna be great.
If I'm the Texans, I'm a little nervous about starting 0-3, and 0-3 is hard to climb back from. It really, really is. And that Texans defense, there I go, forgetting how to talk again. That Texans team is way too talented to start 0-3. Man, that was way too hard for me to say.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know, man. I feel like they're not as talented as they used to be.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be an interesting season. I stayed away from Deshaun Watson this season.
Ooh, I have him in one league. I do.
I chose to stay away from him. Again, I wouldn't mind owning him. He's a great quarterback. And he's probably, my league's on set for quarterback, except for one. That was a crazy drafting 14-man league, and everyone's drafting quarterbacks right off the bat. And someone went with the bold strategy of drafting 5 quarterbacks. So I got stuck with, and I had to get who was available at the time, and I got Baker Mayfield and Gardner Minshew. So I'm running with those two.
I like Minshew.
We'll see how that goes. I think they both have a lot of potential.
The reason I like Minshew is he rushes the ball, so he gives you a floor because he's probably going to run the ball for 50 yards. So that's probably 5 points, easy points right there, not even including his run.
Yep, exactly. So
with Josh
we'll see how it goes. It's going to be interesting. I'm not too big on either of those two teams or either of those two offenses, but I'm hearing that you might not want to sleep on Cleveland this year. See, though. We'll see.
I mean, let's talk about Cleveland real quick since you brought it up. They have OBJ out there, and OBJ had a season that most people do not expect. When you hear OBJ, the numbers he put up last year were not the OBJ-like numbers. And they were talking about how he might have been dealing with an injury all of last year, and he's finally healthy from it. So I think we're really going to see this year, was OBJ dealing with an injury, or was it just an excuse? Like, is he not the same player without Eli Manning? Who knows? Maybe he needs Eli. Good old Eli.
That was a joke.
So you want to take it over to basketball now?
Yeah. Well, before we do that, though, we're still on football right now.
Oh, okay.
And we got something fun coming up this weekend. Your Raiders against my Panthers.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the game.
Let's make a prediction between you and me. Okay? Let's make a deal. The loser next week has to wear the opposing team's hat on the show.
Oh, that's going to hurt my soul. But it's going to be so
If the Raiders win, I'll wear a Raiders hat on the show. If the Panthers win, you wear a Panthers hat on next week's show.
See, I'm willing to do it because if you have to wear a Raiders hat, that's going to hurt you in your soul.
Oh, that's going to hurt.
With the Panthers.
Okay, let's do it then. All right, we're going to do that next week.
We're going to virtually shake on it.
Virtually shaking right now. We'll wear the opposing team's hat next week on the show. How do you feel about that game? What do you think is going to happen? Personally on my end, I think it can go either way.
Yeah.
I think both of our teams are in a similar boat. We're both kind of ranked at the bottom right now.
They're both young.
We're both very young. We both have like brand new type of defenses. Mm-hmm. And, we both have a few new stuff going on offense, a few bright spots on their offense. So I feel like, the Raiders and the Panthers are very much alike in their current situations. The teams look very even, in my opinion. I know what you're hoping is going to happen. What do you predict final score is going to be? What's going to happen in this game?
Well, final score is going to be a tough one. I mean, I'm never good at predicting final scores. There's a lot that can happen that goes into that.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I do want to mention, though, is the Panthers do have a new coach and a new quarterback coming into the season, correct?
They do.
So they have a new coach, new quarterback coming into the season.
And a new quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater, who's coming off 5-0 as the Saints starter, by the way. Just throwing it out there.
I just want to point out, though, Teddy Bridgewater did not win those games. Those games were won by Latavius Murray, Alvin Kamara, and the defense.
Not the point.
That Panthers defense is nowhere near the talent level.
He got those wins. That's what matters.
Anyways, on the Raiders defense, I think there's 5 or 6 new starters. We're getting the rookie Abram, who came off hot back last year. He broke his collarbone in the first game of the season, and he was playing so good. So I'm excited to see him back on the field. He was our first-round pick from last year. We also have Damon Arnett. He's another first-round pick from this year. He's a corner. He's getting a lot of hype. He worked with Chad Johnson in the offseason, and Chad Johnson's been hyping him up. Good old Ocho Cinco. And then the Raiders brought in Rod Marinelli, who's probably one of the most well-known defensive line coaches in the league. And he's helped be a part of some of the best defensive line groupings we've seen in recent history. So I'm really excited for that. He brought a couple new players with him. So I'm excited about the potential of the defense. The Raiders totally revamped their linebacker core, getting Corey Littleton from the Rams and getting Kiwa. I can't say this dude's name. It's like Nick Kiwatowski or something from the Bears.
Yep, I know who you're talking about.
And so they're huge because the Raiders' linebacking core has been their biggest issue, and they went out and spent big on it. Two solid guys who hopefully can lock down that position. So I'm excited about the defense, even though I still think the defense will not be the strength of the team. There's just too many young guys. But sometimes young is good. Sometimes they're hungry and they come out and want it. So yep. I think the Raiders' defense will be better than they've been in recent years. I still don't think they'll be a top 15 unit. So I still think they'll be bottom half defensively. On the offensive side of the ball, I think the Raiders have always been known for the past couple of years of having a really good offensive line. Their offensive line has always kind of stuck out as being pretty solid, keeping Derek Carr on his feet, except sadly the year where the offensive line was the best and the Raiders were the best, Derek Carr got sacked and broke his ankle. What are the odds? The guy who gave up that sack, fun fact, gave up one sack all year, and that was the sack he gave up, the one that broke Derek Carr's ankle. That is just tragic. But we have Josh Jacobs, the second-year running back after his great rookie season, coming back. I mean, I think Josh Jacobs should have been Rookie of the Year. I think Josh Jacobs was a much better.
Of course you do.
I'm just asking from like a non-biased opinion from you, did Josh Jacobs have a better year than Kyler Murray last year?
I don't think Kyler Murray should have won it.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs, I wouldn't have been mad at to see win.
Like, no knock on Kyler Murray. I think he still has a really great chance of being good in the NFL. I think he'll have a good season this year. He definitely struggled for a good part of last year. And Josh Jacobs missed a couple games with an injury, but other than that, I would never say Josh Jacobs really struggled last year. He looked pretty dominant at times. And then Derek Carr, I think, is the same old Derek Carr. He's not really going to win you games, but might not really lose you games. He's just he's the guy he's a game manager, I think, is kind of what he's turned into. He had like 1 year in 2015 where he was really good. So if he could find that again, maybe there's potential. This is his third year in his offense, and he looked more comfortable last year. So hopefully that continues on to this year. But the real big question mark with the Raiders is the wide receiver core. The wide receivers they're rolling out 2 rookie receivers as their starters, with their slot guy being a 1-year pro. So we got Henry Ruggs, the third, right? First-round pick. He looks good. He's fast. Then they got Bryan Edwards from South Carolina. Bryan Edwards, they actually thought was going to be a first-round pick, but he got injured before the combine and fell to the 3rd round because of it. And there's actually talk that Bryan Edwards might be the number 1 in Oakland over Henry Ruggs, which is pretty crazy because Ruggs is your first-round pick. And then they got Hunter Renfrow in the slot. And Renfrow looked good last year as a rookie, man. Down the stretch and towards the end of the year, Renfrow made some plays for the Raiders. I think he's just kind of a guy who just grinds it out. I mean, he's not really going to wow you with his speed, but he's going to get open and catch the ball. He has reliable hands. So
it seems like you're pretty confident in your team.
Hunter Renfrow and Bryan Edwards grew up 15 minutes from each other, played high school football against each other. Their dads know each other. It's pretty crazy that they're both in the NFL playing together now.
On the same team, on the same wide receiving core. That is coincidental?
I don't know. So now it's your turn. Break down your team. Let's see.
Well, you didn't give me your prediction, though. What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I mean, the Raiders are going to win. Dude, if you watched last night, the Panthers are literally projected to be a bottom 2 team. The Raiders weren't even projected on there.
What were the Raiders projected?
I don't know. They only showed the bottom 5 and the top 5, and the Raiders weren't on it.
I think we're reading different. We're definitely reading different.
Well, I'm talking about
down there. We were at 30, but you guys were right below, so like 28 or something like that.
Well, I'm talking about the one they flashed on during the game last night. It was the bottom 5, and the Raiders weren't there.
I didn't see that one.
So off of. I don't really like looking at like power rankings until during the season.
Yeah.
Hopefully this year.
In regard to the Panthers, I think it's one of those kind of a things where you got to wait and see. There's a whole lot of hope and a whole lot of promise within our defense, but there's also a whole lot of doubt because of what just happened with the loss of Luke Kuechly, and we have a lot of young players coming in, and Luke Kuechly was our core. Now we have Brian Burns and Shaq Thompson holding it down in the linebacking core. We brought in Tahir Whitehead, who just came out as one of our captains, and he's actually doing pretty good. I know that you're not a big fan because he got cut from the Raiders, and he wasn't exactly what you guys expected. But he's actually shown to. I've been watching some of their training camp videos and things like that, and it's pretty interesting how he's shown himself to be a veteran leader for the younger guys, and he's teaching them a lot of stuff. So I think that's where it's going to benefit the most, because he's going to be able to share his knowledge and experience with some of these younger guys that are crazy athletic, like Brian Burns, and then help them, get better. So he's taking on a leadership role, and I think that's really cool, especially coming from his first year, the team. But we have a huge core of players that are super young. We have Derek Brown at the defensive tackle, who could be, really, really awesome, really great for the team. But again, inexperience takes over right now. We have a couple brand new young guys in the secondary who, have a lot of promise as well. But it's all one of those, we got to wait and see. So one of our we brought in Eli Apple. He just got hurt. So he's going to be out for this week, meaning we have Dante Jackson, who's starting at the cornerback. And he's, I think he's in his third year now. And then we have a rookie who's going to be coming in for us starting off a cornerback. So it's going to be interesting. And a lot of people are raving that this guy's really good. And, but at the same time, he's a rookie. Yeah. He's going to be tested. And teams are going to test him until he can prove himself. And so test him. I was going to see how this is going to play out for our defense. Yeah. Offensively, go ahead. You wanted to say something. I know you did.
I wanted to say something about Tahir Whitehead, because I think he's a great player. I think he's a great person. I mean, talk about, he was definitely a fan favorite for the Raiders. He was on Twitter every week, and they were at home tweeting okay, who wants tickets? Tell me your favorite story about going to a Raiders game. And he'd always give tickets away to games, and he was always interacting with the fan base. My worry with Tahir Whitehead is he's like a preseason warrior. He comes into every preseason in better shape than he ever has been, and he dominates every preseason. And he usually is decent the first game or two. And then every season after that, he just gets burnt in pass coverage. But he does make good plays from time to time. So I honestly, I'm rooting for him. I hope he can get his game together, because he had some solid seasons in Detroit before coming out to Oakland, which is now the Vegas Raiders. So I'm hopeful. I mean, he's someone I want to see succeed. So I hope he does good for the Panthers. Just like this.
And then on our offense, we obviously don't have Cam Newton anymore. Now we're riding with Teddy Bridgewater. Hopes up for Teddy Bridge. He as I just mentioned, he went 5-0 with the Saints, their starter, when Drew Brees went down. Now, I'm not saying he's the man or anything like that. I can see it in your face, Brian. But I do have a good feeling about him being able to sustain our team and keep us, afloat. And I'm not saying guide us to the playoffs or to the Super Bowl, but I think he can keep us, from being absolute. I don't want to say what else. You know what I mean? They're just going to be horrible. I don't think that he's going to drop the ball completely.
I mean, we all know.
Literally, he might drop it a few times, but
there's a clear guy who's going to carry the offense in Carolina.
I was right about to say, but it's clear where that ball's going to be at for the most part. It's all going to go to Christian McCaffrey. That guy is going to tear it up on the ground and through the air, and it's going to be so fun to watch him play. And I think that's going to do a lot for Teddy Bridgewater's fantasy value in itself. So I'm thinking maybe this is a sleeper. You never know. But also, we have a lot of young guys in our receiving core with Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore coming in, and we also have in Robbie Anderson. So there's a whole lot of speed on this offense, and these younger guys are finally getting a lot better at their route running and perfecting that kind of, close close range type of throwing and routes that they're going to be running because they're all deep threats. You know what I mean? And neither of them are exactly like huge, monstrous individuals like some of these receivers are, but they are just so fast and so good.
Yeah,
so when that ball gets into their hands, I think a lot of teams are going to have trouble. If any of those three have any open space, it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Your wide receivers and running backs, I think, are definitely the part that's going to carry the offense. My worry about the Panthers is Teddy Bridgewater doesn't have the same throwing ability that Cam Newton had.
I know.
Like, even when he was in Minnesota and even New Orleans last year, you didn't really see him push the ball downfield too much. It was a lot of those short, medium range throws. Even Michael Thomas, we saw him have some of his worst weeks in fantasy last year.
I feel like you're still stuck on Cam Newton's deep bomb though, because last season we didn't even have Cam Newton playing.
I'm aware, and Kyle Allen. I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater can even throw the ball as far downfield as Kyle Allen could. And not saying Kyle Allen was good by any matter, because that guy was not.
I actually think Teddy can throw.
Okay, I mean,
I think he's a better quarterback than Kyle Allen. I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's very accurate. Very accurate.
I wouldn't mind them actually holding on to Kyle Allen and seeing how he does, but
yeah, where did he go? Did he go to Washington?
He got traded to Washington.
Yeah, he followed Rivera.
He went with Coach. And, prayers up to Coach Rivera. I know he's a Monterey County native, Seaside native. Prayers up. He just got diagnosed with I can't remember the exact name, but some form of cancer.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy too, man. And we all hope he does well. I mean, just not even from being from the area, just like he's definitely one of the more well-respected coaches in the league. So been around a long time. So nothing but the best.
So before we move on to our next subject, we both have a lot of pride in our teams, as you can tell. We both think our teams are going to beat each other and that they're going to be the best thing ever. But I got a hot take right here.
Ooh.
And they're predicting Teddy Bridgewater to have a pretty big game.
Yeah, I can see it.
3 touchdowns from Teddy Bridge. I don't know. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. Unless maybe 2 of those touchdowns were like little checkdowns to Christian McCaffrey and he took him to the house. I'm not going to say he's going to throw 3. But there's a bold prediction from one of our, not our, but a pro analyst who's predicting Carolina to win. As you mentioned, I think Las Vegas has the Raiders up, but of course they have the Raiders up because that's what they're from now. So it's going to be interesting. One more quick hot take on we're talking about Cam a little bit. We mentioned there's somebody put how many touchdowns they think Cam Newton is going to score, including rushing.
On the Patriots, Cam Newton?
On the Patriots against the Dolphins week 1. How many do you think he's going to score? How many do you think?
Like week 1?
Week 1. Sunday.
Who do the Patriots play?
The Dolphins.
Oh, the Dolphins. That changes everything. Do you know what, though? The Dolphins, their cornerbacks might be the 2 best corners in the league in Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. So yeah. I'm assuming it's something crazy like 4 or 5 touchdowns he put, but I honestly don't see Cam scoring more than 2 or 3 himself.
Okay.
Because I think if Cam scores, it's going to have to be him running the ball in because I don't know how much they're going to be able to get in the air past Xavier Howard and Byron Jones.
The analyst that I'm looking at right here, I was about to say our analyst again. He's not our analyst, but the analyst that posted this here is predicting Cam Newton 5 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 3 passing, leaving the Patriots to feel like their dynasty is intact.
I honestly don't know if they do that. He scores that many against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Their defense, I don't think is good by any means. I think they're still going to get run all over and probably the middle of the field is going to get thrown on a bunch. But Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, they can leave them on the islands outside, and I think they both can hold their own.
It's going to be fun to watch. I can't wait to see it. To see it. I'm going to throw right here. Another analyst is saying Kyler Murray throws for 303 touchdowns in a win over the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, we did see the Cardinals beat the Niners last year. Remember when Kenyon Drake
And
had
now
that?
they have Hopkins.
Now they have Hopkins. They beat Kenyon Drake, ran all over the Niners last year. They could not. The Niners went from being the best rush defense to like forgetting how to play against the run against Kenyon Drake. So that was pretty crazy. I mean, the Cardinals looked like they had their number last year. So I don't know if they throw for that many yards over the Niners defense, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Cardinals found a way to pull it out.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting.
To be fair, I still think the Niners win that game, but I would not be shocked if the Cardinals win.
Okay. All right. Here's the one more I want to give you really quickly. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of history. Since 2003, quarterback selected number 1 overall, first overall, are 0-11-1 in their first career starts. Okay? As you know, Joe Burrow went first overall.
Joe Burrow.
Do you think he's going to put an end to that?
Who do the Bengals play?
The Bengals are playing against the Los Angeles Chargers.
You know, the Chargers just lost.
Bengals and Joe Burrow and that.
The Chargers just lost Derwin James on defense. He's arguably one of the better safeties in the league. That was really sad. It was on Hard Knocks even. I still think that Chargers team is really talented. They do have Tyrod Taylor as a quarterback this year, who I think I don't know what to think about Tyrod Taylor. We haven't really seen him since he was on the Bills, and last time we saw him, he wasn't really that good. So it'll be interesting, man. It depends if the Chargers offense can get going, and it depends if Burrow can come out hot. I mean, I think A.J. Green's finally healthy, so he has some good receivers out there. He has A.J. Green. He has Tyler Boyd, even John Ross, who was a first-round pick not too long ago. And, I mean, a lot of people are writing John Ross off because he hasn't really done much as just a speed guy. But last year, he led the league in average yards of separation. So he was getting wide open last year, just Andy Dalton could not get him the ball. So if these Bengals receivers are getting open and Burrow can be even a little better than Dalton was last year, which I think Burrow can easily do because Dalton was really bad last year. And I emphasize last year because I think Andy Dalton was pretty solid for most of his career. But I don't know. I think Burrow, I think they could pull it out. I mean, of course I want to see it happen. I don't want to see the division rivals of the Chargers win, but the Chargers are a good club. So I think that'll be a close game, honestly.
Well, I could say he used to be one of my favorite receivers back in the day, Nate Burleson.
Oh.
He's predicting that Joe Burrow pulls it off.
Yeah, man. I think he can, honestly. I am excited for it. That'll be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun. There's a huge amount of games coming up this week. I hope everyone's got your barbecue gear ready so that way you go home and be safe and watch football with your family and, eat some good food and enjoy, sports and football being back. It's going to be great. Really quick, Brian, you want to touch up on did something pretty, a little tragic for you, though. Didn't something bad kind of happen?
Well, yes and no. So the Giants
it hurt your soul. I know it hurts your soul.
It hurt my soul. So
it affects me the same way Cam got, when Cam got let go, it hurt me just like the way you're hurting now. Now you're feeling the
I think it's a little different. So what Jacob's talking about is the Giants have released Pablo Sandoval, longtime Giant, 3-time World Series winner with the Giants. I mean, Pablo Sandoval has some legendary Giants moments. He caught the last out in a World Series. He hit 3 home runs off one of the best pitchers in the league in the World Series one year. So Pablo Sandoval is it's safe to say a Giants legend. They released him and they acquired a guy named Justin Smoke. Justin Smoke kind of fills the same role as Pablo Sandoval, and at this point in their careers, he's a better option. So with the Giants actually just becoming above 500 and a chance to make the playoffs, they decided to go out and get a better hitter since Sandoval was not producing. The reason I say it's not really the same as Cam Newton is this is actually the second time Pablo Sandoval's left. After they won the World Series, the year after, he went and signed a big contract with the Boston Red Sox. So that one hurt because he chose to go to the Boston over the Giants. But then he ended up playing really bad in Boston and came back home to the Giants. And it paid off well because the Red Sox were paying his contract while he was playing for the Giants. So, I mean, it's rough to see him leave because, like I said, he's a Giants legend, but I think it was time to move on. It's a new team, new direction. And the guy they acquired, Justin Smoke, he's a switch-hitting power hitter, brings a new dimension to the Giants. I'm excited to watch the playoff run, man. The only tough thing is arguably the Giants division of the NL West is the best division in baseball right now. We have the Dodgers, the Dodgers are absolutely stacked. Like, from a talent aspect, they are probably the most talented team up there with them, and the Yankees are probably the most two talented teams. The Yankees are always hurt, though, can't stay healthy, so I'll go with the Dodgers being more talented. But then, little south of the Dodgers, we have the San Diego Padres, who have been so good. They have literally been nicknamed the Slam Diego Padres because they keep hitting home runs, grand slams. They're on an unreal pace, and that team. I mean, the San Diego Padres is someone who decided they're going for it. They went and traded for like 10 guys at the trade deadline, picked up a bunch of new players. So they definitely went all in this year. So, in a way, and then you have the Giants, who a lot of people are sleeping on, man. The Giants are a good little ball team right there. So I'm excited. It's been a great season. Been a lot of fun. It's fun to watch your team be competitive. And the past couple of years, the Giants were not competitive. So it's been great to see them back.
Oh, boy. All I know is they're going to do it.
The A's, they've actually slowed down a bit. They were off to a hot start.
That's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. You can be with Derrick, confident in your A's. I like a lot of the A's players, though, so I can't hate on it. I'd like to. If it's not going to be the Giants, I'm okay with it being the A's.
It's probably not going to be the Giants. Let's be realistic.
Hey, the Giants won a World Series. They came in as the last wild card in 2010. They barely made the playoffs, and they went on an insane run to win the World Series.
That was 10 years ago, sir. Let's move on to.
Saying I'm done with the baseball segment.
Let's move on to basketball because there's some pretty crazy stuff happened in basketball as well. Did you happen to see that Game 6, Toronto and Boston?
I have not watched. I've watched one playoff basketball game.
That was a thriller. Let me tell you, it went down to double overtime. And it was just, oh man, nitty gritty to the very, very end. Kyle Lowry put up 33 points and 8 rebounds, and he brought that team back. And they are going to play tonight. Game 7 starts at a little over an hour. It's going to be interesting to watch. It's going to be a battle. These two teams are both trying to prove something. The Raptors. We mentioned it last week, I think. Where the Raptors, they're now showing how even without Kawhi, they can still be a playoff caliber team. They can still be one of those top teams. And it was really interesting. I think a lot of people thought that, they weren't even going to make playoffs without Kawhi this year.
Yeah.
So it's crazy to see that they're in literally, they're in the same level of the playoffs as the Clippers right now. All the teams are in the semifinals except for Miami Heat. Miami Heat, who's now in the conference finals. Okay, they beat the Bucks 4-1 in the series. Nobody would have expected that.
Oh man,
nobody would have expected that.
Do the Heat go all the way?
The Heat are going into the conference finals. They will play either Boston or Toronto, depending on who wins tonight.
So do you think they can beat Boston or Toronto?
It's gonna be a doozy. I want to see Boston go. I had said like when I was I've always had a like for Boston. You know, if I had to choose a team on my East Coast to be a fan of, I might choose the Celtics. And not has nothing to do with the fact that Boston wins a ton of titles. That area in football and in hockey and all that, but the Celtics for some reason always drew my eye, and after I went to TD Garden and actually experienced the game live, that's when I was like, all right, they could be my East Coast team, But so I wouldn't mind seeing them, but I do like Miami and I do like Jimmy Butler.
Yeah,
So
I've liked watching Jimmy Butler. I know Miami has a young team this year, so I'd like to watch Miami. I'll probably start watching the finals, the conference finals, and the finals a bit more. I like playoff basketball towards the end.
yeah, I think it depends on who makes it into the finals, which will determine who I kind of root for. So, for instance, we got the Lakers playing Houston. The Lakers went up one game last night, so they're up 3-1 in Houston. The Clippers are up 3-1 in Denver. I'm assuming, according to this bracket, Clippers and Lakers are probably going to play each other in the conference finals. Out of those two teams, it's going to be an interesting match.
That's going to be a fun series to watch. I'll tune in.
That'll be a lot of fun to watch. I definitely, I guess I'm going to say I would want the Clippers to go, but I'm actually rooting for Denver to pull this off. They're playing right now. I don't know what the finals or the current score is at this exact moment, but they're down 3-1. Crazy if Jamal Murray was able to bring the Nuggets back and win just like he did. What's that?
It is currently 53-40. The Clippers are up, so the Nuggets are down by 13 going into half.
Yep, going into the half. So come on, Nuggets. It's fun to see them actually advance. And in the West, I'd be rooting for the Nuggets because I'm not a big Rockets or the Lakers. And I have nothing against the Clippers, but I think the Nuggets would be cool. Assuming Lakers and Clippers advance, I'm going to choose the Clippers to make it to the finals. And then at that point, I would choose probably one of the East Coast teams or East Conference teams to win. I would want Miami or Boston or Toronto. But actually, no, I don't want Toronto. I don't want them to repeat. So it'd be Boston or Miami I'd be going for. And either one of those two teams.
Sounds good.
Interesting. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Fun series. That is for sure.
So there's NFL games coming up. We talked about our Raiders Panthers and we talked about the Texans and Chiefs game. Is there anybody you're excited to watch that we didn't talk about who plays this weekend?
Football?
They do. Yeah, for
or
football.
Any sport.
Any sport, honestly. I'm going to say something about football because I'm excited for football to start this weekend. But I'm curious, who's a player? It could be basketball. It could be a golfer. I'm cool with any sport. Who are you excited to see? Who are you excited to see them come out with confidence and just dominate the playing field? Oh, you want to see? We already talked about Cam Newton, though. I said someone we didn't talk about.
I want to see my boy Cam just dumb. But somebody that we didn't talk about or a team that we didn't talk about.
Yep.
Basically, I can't talk about basketball because the only teams remain to be covered. So I think I'm really interested to see. I don't know about one specific person. I guess you could say one person I'm interested in seeing would be Odell Beckham.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we did kind of mention him actually, though.
Yeah, I briefly talked about how if he's going to be the same player coming back for if you want to talk about him, just go for it.
But I do want to see him kind of come back and be the OBJ of old. I did draft him in one of my leagues, and only because I know he didn't have a great season last year, but just who he is and the potential he has, it can be so high and he can skyrocket if he does well and if they finally click. But I'd say either him or also, even though it's going against my division, Todd Gurley. I'm interested to see how Todd Gurley does. I think it'd be really, really cool to see him excel. Not against my team, but I think it'd be really cool to see him bounce back and prove that he's still the Gurley of old as well. It was pretty unfortunate the way that, he just couldn't come back from his injury the way that, he planned. But he's a really good player and really good talent, and hopefully, Atlanta did something smart by picking him up.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention just that Atlanta Falcons offense in general. Like, there's a lot of hype around Calvin Ridley right now, seeing him step up. I mean, remember the days where it was Julio Jones and Roddy White just terrorizing defenses? They were both insane. And I think the Falcons might be back at that point with Calvin Ridley, because Calvin Ridley is an insanely good NFL receiver.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about just watching Calvin Ridley, and then with teams so worried about Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, they even added Hayden Hurst, who might fit into that offense really well. Teams might be scooting back a bit, which gives Todd Gurley all the space in the world to run. Because we have to remember, Todd Gurley in LA had no space to run because teams knew the Rams couldn't throw. So they would stack the box against him, and it made it hard for Todd Gurley. So I'm excited to see what Todd Gurley can do with some space that the Falcons offense will give him. I think that'll be very dangerous. But since you kind of mentioned that already, let me try figuring out another team real quick. Look at my fantasy teams. See if there's someone.
Lamar Jackson's going to be fun to watch this season as well. I don't want to say he's necessarily somebody like I'm super interested to watch. I don't want to put him in this conversation that we're having now because it seems like we're kind of going like sleeper-esque.
Like someone we want to see succeed.
Yeah, because we know Lamar Jackson's going to do well.
Yeah.
We know he's going to tear it up. It's going to be fun to watch him do it. That's for sure. But we know that. So going for somebody who we would we're not expecting.
I was going to say, while you think about it, I wanted to talk about Lamar Jackson real quick.
Go ahead.
I think he's just incredibly talented, and it's going to be so amazing to see it's the question Pat Mahomes had to answer last year. Can you do it again? Teams know what you're bringing now. Can you do it again? And I think that's what it's going to be for Lamar Jackson. Like, are we going to see – because the Ravens' offense was insanely efficient last year.
Yeah.
Like, insanely. Like, Mark Ingram, all of them. Now we have Marquise Brown 1 year older. So it would be really cool to see what Marquise Brown – they brought in J.K. Dobbins. I mean, Mark Ingram, it's hard to say Mark Ingram shouldn't start after the year he had last year. He was just flat out dominant last year. Like,
he was really good.
I mean, talk about confidence. Mark Ingram was like the most confident. That whole Ravens offense was the most confident offense we've seen probably since the Chiefs the year before. But
what about another person I'm thinking of is Devontae Adams.
Ooh, okay.
And Aaron Rodgers combined. I would love to see them to just, blow the roof off the place, and I know Aaron Rodgers is pushing, his time in the NFL now. It's getting to a point where, he may want to start considering I'm not saying right now, but in the near future, retirement. And he may not have the arm he used to, but at the same time, I still think he's a really good quarterback, and they're actually ranked 5th in the power rankings right now. The Packers.
Really?
5th power rankings. Maybe it's because, Aaron Jones was so good last year. The run game was pretty good. I don't think many people expected that of them. And the run game was pretty good. And hopefully they can continue that, and it opens things up for Devontae Adams. And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I want him to do well as well. All
right, the next thing I want to watch for this weekend is we saw an influx of young wide receiver talent into the NFL this year with all those receivers, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb. Even guys like Jalen Reagor in Philadelphia. Like, there's just a lot of young receiver talent that came into the league this year, and I'm just excited to see what happens. I mean, for the Broncos, Courtland Sutton sadly went down with an injury, and they think he might be missing some significant time. So they got Jerry Jeudy they have to turn to. And it'll be exciting to see what can Jerry Jeudy do. Are all these receivers as good as they're all hyped up to be? Is it going to be some breakout, some don't? And I'm excited to watch them play because these guys all dominated in college. I mean, you watch CeeDee Lamb, you watch Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy. I mean, Henry Ruggs and Jerry Judy's coming from the same offense. Like, think about that. That's insane.
Did you just say Courtland Sutton is going to be – I heard he got hurt, but how long did they say?
They haven't given a time yet, but he's likely to miss significant time because someone had the same
right?
thing from last year and missed most of the season.
Yeah, he was the guys. I'm hoping. I'm hoping he's gonna break out this season too. I'm really hoping he's gonna do well.
Yeah,
So
they
hopefully,
officially a day, but last year someone had the same exact injury and missed the whole season. He has an AC sprained joint, so that's like a shoulder. So that could be of lifting his arms up, which as an NFL receiver, if you're struggling lifting your arms up, you have to be able to catch that ball, right? So that could be a huge issue. And then, I mean, dude, the Broncos have been so unlucky. They also had Von Miller go out for the season. So, I mean, Von Miller, like, he's been in the Raiders division for a long time, and I have nothing but respect for Von Miller. I mean, he's such a model player. He's like what you want in a player on the field and off the field. So, prayers up for Von Miller. Hope he gets well.
Definitely. All right, Coach Brian, I think it's about that time for us to wrap up the show. Thank you to everyone who's out there watching right now. Anybody who's supporting the show, we appreciate you. Join us next week as we keep the show going every Friday at 4 p.m.
4 o'clock.
I'm Coach Jacob. That's Coach Brian, and we're out.
Make sure you subscribe.